Hi guys, this is an after action report for the Operation Rhine solo scenario for Atlantic chase. And in this scenario, the player, myself, play as the Kriegsmarine, and the forces available for us initially are a task force with the pocket battleship Bismarck and the cruiser Prince Eugen, and reinforcements the battle cruisers Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. And as usual, the British had a vast array of surface vessels available for them in the Royal Navy. So the task for the Kriegsmarine from the Supreme Admiral was to get out into the Atlantic and harass British convoys as much as possible without taking any losses, given that the Kriegsmarine surface fleet was very, very small. So this started out with the in Kiel with the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen having to run a gauntlet through a vast number of British task forces placed in the North Sea, off Scapa Flow, and up through the Denmark Strait. And they managed to get right through here without being detected up through the Denmark Strait on the Arctic line. Fortunately, we made it right through into the Atlantic. And once in the Atlantic, we went on the hunt. So for the first part of the game, we were hunting convoys relatively unsuccessfully. We got close, but then they slipped away a number of times, and it sort of dragged a little bit out there in the cold Atlantic Ocean hunting the convoys. And then things turned for the better. Well, shortly did anyway. We intercepted a convoy coming out of, I think it was St. John's, but we got interference from naval or air strikes from the bases here off America, so we were unable to damage that convoy, and they slipped away back into the Atlantic with British task forces out there now chasing us. And we managed to intercept another convoy, and it slipped away again, and that convoy eventually completed in Britain, unfortunately. Meanwhile, while they were completing, we were tracking down another convoy, and that convoy consisted of the battleship Ramillies escorting the convoy. And that was an really interesting set of battles there. We engaged, we found that convoy, we engaged it. It slipped away from us without any damage. We found it again, the Bismarck and the Eugen, and the Bismarck, it was a really heroic effort by the Ramillies. The convoy went to run away, and the Ramillies head on went for the Bismarck and the Eugen in a typical British naval fashion, closed in on them while the convoy tried to break away from the action. And unfortunately for the Ramillies, the Bismarck scored some massive broadsides on it and sunk it, not before the Ramillies had actually damaged the Prince Eugen as well. But the Ramillies sacrificed itself at that time for the convoy to get those precious supplies into Britain. Unfortunate for the Ramillies, after that engagement, the convoy, the Bismarck, found the convoy again, and we inflicted the massive hits on the convoy. In fact, 7 hits on the convoy, which is the maximum in this scenario. So it was a devastating blow for the for Britain at that point there, but great for the Kriegsmarine. So that was a really exciting set of naval engagements there. Subsequent to that, the Royal Navy sent everything it had chasing after the Bismarck, and the hunt was on. And I might recreate, I'll jump ahead a little bit, I'll recreate what happened very briefly, because it was really exciting, which is the hallmarks of this game. It's such a narrative game. So there was a RV marker, in other words, a Kriegsmarine merchant navy vessel was out here waiting for a RV with the Bismarck. There were 3 others as well, but the Bismarck chose to head for this one here, given that the Prince Eugen was damaged, hoping to refuel and get some repairs done on the Eugen. But tailing it were 3 task forces, 1, 2, and 3. And in those task forces you had the carrier Victorious and the King George V, along with cruisers. You had a small cruiser force, and then you had the Hood and Prince of Wales. And what happened was this: the Bismarck made it to the RV and rendezvoused, and the particular rendezvous allowed for the British, the Kriegsmarine reinforcements, the Scharnhorst and Gneisenauer, to put to sea if we wanted them to, but it wasn't necessary at that point, and there was a victory point penalty if we didn't put them to sea. So the Kriegsmarine, the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen rendezvoused. That came off, and then they needed to get out of there because they were being tailed heavily. The Victorious launched an airstrike. They found them and launched an airstrike against the Bismarck and the Eugen, and they scored a hit on the Bismarck, but that's all that happened. And the Bismarck then managed to slip away. So what it did was, and I'll recreate that now very briefly, it headed for Brest because it had accomplished its mission of destroying or damaging a British convoy, which it did successfully, and it set a trajectory for Brest. And it was a race against the time. So having been hit in an airstrike, it set off for Brest, and then the British Naval Task Force with the Hood and Prince of Wales tracked it down and found it here. But unfortunate for the Hood and the Prince of Wales, the Bismarck and the Eugen slipped away, and they made it to Brest with bad weather closing in, and there ended the scenario. And I've paraphrased it a little bit there, and shorter than it sounded, but boy, what a game! Fantastic narrative. Really had the tension that I imagine was out there in the naval war in the Atlantic. And as I've said in earlier videos, this game is stellar. So in terms of the victory conditions for this game, let's move over to that. So the victory conditions, let's go through them. So the mission objectives, British convoys that suffered hits. So we had a total of 7 hits on British convoys, which is 10 points for us. For each German ship that was damaged, we had the Eugen damaged, so we lost 3, so we were down to 7 points. The Kriegsmarine battleships were still in the French port, so we gained a point, so we're back up to 8 points. Did the battle cruisers enter play? No, they didn't, so there's no penalty there. So on 8 points, let's look at the British ships. And we had 1 battle cruiser sunk, so we're on 10 points. And then with the convoys, they completed 1 undamaged convoy. Sorry for the shade there, guys. So they were down to 7 points, and they completed a dispersed convoy. We're down to 6 points. So we ended up on 6 points, which is attrition. And if the Bismarck is in a French port, which it ended up in Brest, undamaged, this is the sort of attrition warfare Admiral Raeder is happy about. And if neither battlecruiser was damaged or sunk, or never entered play, he sketches the next operation. So we didn't get the Scharnhorst or the Gneisenauer out to sea. So all in all, it was a successful mission for the Kriegsmarine. But boy, oh boy, was it a tense situation with those powerful task forces out there chasing us. So there you go, guys. That's a report on the Operation Rhine solo scenario. And the interesting thing here is this scenario is so replayable because I've hardly scratched the surface of it in terms of what task forces can do what, in terms of the effects of rendezvousing with the various rendezvous markers. So this is a I'll just pause for a second here. Oh, we're right. So as I was saying before I was rudely awakened by the phone, even this scenario, having played it, I'd happily play it again because it's going to play out so differently. And well, I can only reiterate, this is a very fine game, guys, and a great great naval game, the naval game I've been waiting for years. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.